think Germans are kind of in the middle. Yeah, they are a little bit more like they want to be efficient, but you cannot just come in and say, well, boom, that's it. So take it or leave it. That's not working. It feels like somebody is like pushing me into a direction. And I'm as a decision maker, I feel pressured. And, I'm the decision maker, so don't pressure me, right? So you need to have that relationship, though, that the decision maker feels comfortable in the relationship and they feel it's a good decision for them to make, and then they're in.
This episode is brought to you in part by Sales Success Summit. If you're a sales rep and you're looking for ways to improve your skills, you want to learn from the top 1% of sellers, you need to attend Sales Success Summit. The event is held this year, October 14th through 15th in Austin, Texas. To find more information, visit the show notes or go to top1summit.com. Again, top1summit.com. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. Learn how to find more ideal customers, build stronger value, close more deals. There are 12 modules available in the program. The first 2 modules are absolutely free. Test them out for yourself. Go to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have a great friend. Her name is Christine coming on a show. And Christina has a podcast as well called Heart Sells. And she is from Europe, specifically Germany. And she's going to give us some insights, some ideas about what it takes to sell in Europe. And also to contrast how selling in Europe versus selling in the US, some pointers that Americans can take, and also some pointers that Europeans can take. And we're going to have a discussion about that. I feel it's relevant. And especially as a sales leader, when your sales reps are going out there, they're making those calls, they're sending emails, are they saying things that are actually offending people? Or are they saying things that are making people standoffish? Or are they saying things that are going to bring people into listening? Well, don't you worry. Today, we're going to get some help from Christine, and it's going to put you and your sales reps on the right track. Welcome to the show, Christine.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I am so excited. And the cool thing about this is I rarely, probably of all the 70 odd episodes that we've done, I've probably done a handful, maybe 10 of them in person. And this one has to take the cake because not only are we at Podcast Movement, but we have video as well. So folks, you're watching this video, getting a chance to see us here. Super exciting. Christine, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Yeah, well, I work with heart-centered entrepreneurs who really, really love what they do, but they're afraid of selling. Somehow sales seems to be something negative. So I help them to redefine that so that they can sell with ease, grace, confidence, and they also can ask their price. So I help them to make sales fun because that's what it is. It is an interaction between people.
No, I agree with you on that. I feel there's several things that I want to tackle this too, because there are a couple, you're from Europe.
Yes.
And selling in Europe, I imagine it probably has a little bit of difference than selling stateside or in fact, any country, so to speak.
Yeah, totally.
So I want to get into that, but let's go back to a comment that you said. You said that these entrepreneurs typically have a fear of their pricing or just like a fear of selling. What, from your experience, why is that? These guys have great talents and great services, and these gals. Why do you feel, or you've come to realize that they have this fear?
Yeah, it's really strange. Somehow sales seems to be a negative word. And I think that
what do you think it's because of what brings the negativity to it?
Yeah, I think it goes back to like all these sales movies, right?
Yeah.
The Wolf of Wall Street, people just don't want to be like these people.
Yeah.
They want to be like the good people.
Yeah.
So, and we all have had a bad sales experience at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
Right? Where somebody took our money and ran, or the service didn't deliver as promised. So subconsciously, we kind of think we are on track.
Yeah.
But like our unconscious mind makes us stop in our tracks because we don't want to be like these people.
Yes.
So I see that often, and especially with women.
Yeah.
That, asking your price, asking for what you truly want, and making that offer or invitation feels sleazy, salesy, pushy. Well, I don't want to be like this.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not going to give my services to the world. Like, people have to come. I'm here, right? I'm a good person. Yeah. So why is not everybody lining up outside the door and wants my stuff?
Yeah.
So like having the idea of you have to make that invitation. You have to ask for the sale, and you can do that in a natural way.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need to have a conversation and all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, you would be my ideal client. And now I get like really weird because now I know I have to make that sale.
Yeah.
Right? Because no sale, no business.
No business. It doesn't work out. But yeah. I agree with you 110% of that. That fear, it's go back to what you said, the Wolf of Wall Street type. I think you never see a good movie. You never see a movie with a good sales guy.
Yeah.
Either they're really cheesy, like look at Tommy Boy, which is a comedy, but or you see like the Wolf of Wall Street or movies like that. Boiler Room. I actually was talking about.
Oh yeah, Boiler Room.
Because in those movies, it's like this crazy, ridiculous thing happened, and it brings drama. But a good seller selling from the heart, or that heart sell, that somebody who's passionate about bringing value. That'll be a boring movie, to be honest.
Totally. But the cool thing is the sales life could be like that.
Yeah.
Right? You set the expectation, you make that offer. Obviously, you need to talk about like what's a go, what's a no-go, how can we work together, how can I make that magic happen for you? And I feel that so many people don't even go there because they're so uncomfortable with it.
Yes.
That at the end of the day, they're just hiding.
Yeah.
Right? They have these wonderful gifts and talents, but they don't monetize on them.
Not at all.
So,
not at all.
Yeah.
Well, this brings into the discussion today because you have a lot of experience selling in Europe as well as leading teams as well.
Yes.
Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
As a sales leader?
Yes.
The U.S. market. We have a lot of our listeners who are listening in the U.S. and also we have a lot of friends over on the other side of the pond in UK and also Europe and Eastern Europe. These individuals who are selling to the stateside prospects and clients, they have difficulties when they first start and vice versa. I've tried calling into companies in Europe and I've had my difficulties as well. Help me out. Give us this guidance. What are some of maybe the top, we can't go into probably everything today, but you probably could point out some of the top 3-5 things that is different about selling in Europe versus selling in the US.
Yeah. I think selling in the US is like really fast paced.
Yes.
While in Europe, people like time. And please don't see Europe like as one country, right?
Yes.
So when you listen from the US, there are huge differences. Like, for example, if you would be selling in France, they have so many decision makers. And
give me an example. How many typically you find?
Typically, at least 3.
Yeah.
Right? So people take their time. They discuss. Like French people love meetings. Right? So they are not like Americans go in like, okay, let's make this happen.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, this is a project. This is what we want to get out of it. So let's just go for it. While in France, or also I experienced selling in Italy, there's a team that it was insane.
Yeah.
Right? You talk to this person, this person, this one. It's all about the relationships.
Yeah.
You cannot just show up and say, well, that's my offer, leave it or take it.
Yeah.
It's so not working. I think Germans are kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are a little bit more like they want to be efficient, but you cannot just come in and say, well, boom, that's it. So take it or leave it. That's not working. It feels like somebody is like pushing me into a direction. And I'm as a decision maker, I feel pressured. And, I'm the decision maker, so don't pressure me.
Yes.
Right? So you need to have that relationship, though, that the decision maker feels comfortable in the relationship and they feel it's a good decision for them to make. And then they're in.
Because it seems like nobody wants to make a bad decision.
Yes.
And I think especially if you go back to like countries like France, where you're saying where they love meetings, if I was a part of and maybe that's one of the things to have the bunch of meetings and the bunch of committees, because maybe the culture is just, maybe we don't want to make bad decisions. So we have a bunch of filters to help evaluate if this is a proper move to make.
Yeah, I think like the bigger the companies are, it seems like to me the more complicated the decision-making process is.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people involved. And then, just from a female perspective, in those big companies, it's usually the leaders are male.
Yeah.
And then, then often there comes like this ego thing, like, no, I'm the alpha. Oh, no, wait, I'm the alpha.
I'm the alpha.
Yeah, that's my department. So all of a sudden, and that happened to me a couple times. We have several decision makers and one is just blocking the process because he wants to be right.
Yeah.
So, and you never know what the politics is inside the companies. So, you kind of need to tiptoe around and you need to explore. So if you come and say, well, that's my offer, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
You might as well save the call, right? Yeah. It's not going to happen.
So that's the first thing, being willing to understand that it's not a one call close. And I think you see the same thing with enterprise deals here in the States side where, the bureaucracy tends to be a little bit bigger, but I see where this could be more affected from the, like the French side or German or Italian, where they want to, it seems like, like you're saying, Europeans want to make sure it goes a little bit slower than American fast-paced method. The other question I had, have you had any experiences where you saw or worked with American companies that came in and was doing the quick, fast, pushy way and didn't work out? Any experience you could think about?
Well, I didn't have direct experience, but so the company I used to work for when I was selling high ticket events over the phone was a global company.
Sure.
So, and you call with the same name and they would often complain and say, yeah, well, your colleagues from whatever country called us and they were really pushy. So we don't like that. And that's why we don't want to talk to you because it's going to be the same sales process.
Yeah.
Right. So you had to kind of work around it like, well, hold on a second. I'm here stationed in Berlin. That's, German thinking. And you got to get the conversation rolling if you had that chance.
Hey, we're going to take a break, and when we get back, we're going to pick up where we left off, continue to share with you some ideas about selling in the U.S. versus selling in Europe. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. This episode is brought to you in part by Sales Success Summit. This is an event put on by my friend Scott Ingram in Austin, Texas this year, October 14th through the 15th. Scott has a podcast where he interviews some of the most successful sales reps in the entire country. These sales reps are the top 1%ers, and it's cool to figure out and to hear from them what makes them in this top echelon of sales reps. The conference is really unique too. You get a chance to interact and network and learn. One of the attendees last year, name is James Chrisman. Now here's what James did. He built a network at the event. He worked for a small company in Chicago and then turned around, landing a job at Teradata in San Diego just because of going to the event. Fast forward to today, just finished up his first full year, and guess what? He closed his first multi-six-figure commission deal. You can't make this stuff up. I highly recommend you check out the event. Find all the details in the show notes or go to top1summit.com. Again, top1summit.com. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. When I was a young sales rep and I had a difficult time closing the deal, a horrible time interacting with strong, confident buyers or just didn't know what questions to ask, I went through a training program and then I learned all the fundamentals and it was like magic. All of a sudden, the planets aligned and my performance went out the roof. I started to close some pretty decent sized deal, making some good money. And this is why I created TSE Certified Sales Training Program. I know that there are sellers out there, sales reps who are struggling at times, don't know what to do. Management probably don't have time to train them. Take part in TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We have the first 2 modules open for free. You can check it out. If you like it, you can get the other 10 modules, and we would love to have you join us for our group discussions each week. Find all the details by going back to the show notes or simply going to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Hey, we're back. And as we dive into the second half of the episode, Christine is going to pick up where she left off, and share with you some ideas that you should be, or concept you should be aware of when selling in Europe, and also some thoughts about selling here in the US. If you're a sales leader and you understand this now, with especially for those who are probably listening to this and they're like, oh man, we have our team selling in Europe and we also have our European team and our team in Brazil and Colombia. How do you go about offering training to make sure everyone understands these cultural norms or differences? How would you go about doing that?
Well, I definitely think that people need to be aware that when I pick up the phone, each person I'm calling will be different.
Yes.
Right? There's probably no one fits all solution because we're all human. We all have preferences and things we don't like.
Yeah.
So I would go about approach it from the perspective a little bit, take your heart, right? Yeah. How would you want to be treated as somebody calls you? What's important to you? And then just be open to cultural differences. It doesn't mean that, the people don't like you. It's just that there seems to be a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So, and I learned when I started sales, that if it's a no, it's always my fault. Huh. No matter what, it's always my fault as a salesperson. It's my fault. Didn't work out. It's my fault because I have not managed some aspect of the sales process.
Yes.
So it's my fault. So if we start looking okay, well, might be a truth that's hard to accept because, who would want to be that my fault?
Yeah.
Right, kind of thing. But, so I always looked at it, okay, if I call into the US, I need to get my urgency right.
Yes.
Because that's what they expect. I cannot show up as, let's do the relationship kind of thing like we do here in Germany, right? That would feel off for them.
Yeah.
So just being aware that there is a cultural difference, knowing about this probably helps.
Yeah.
As a first step.
So the speed, I'll give you another point, something else that we should know about that's different when it comes towards selling in the US versus selling in Europe.
Yeah, I think speed is the most important one. I mean, if you got that right, you already have taken a big step. Yeah, maybe. I mean, the US is pretty good when it actually comes to small talk.
Yeah.
So in other countries, it's a different style.
Is it because you feel like the small talk, you already know what it is? It's just small talk. And
exactly.
It feels like it's almost like fake.
Yeah, it's almost like fake. So for example, I know when I'm going to the UK, the UK, they talk about the weather and they are serious about it.
Because, it's nasty.
Right? So, every time I was there, the sun was out. So I wouldn't necessarily say that. But so for me as being raised in Germany, talking about the weather kind of felt like a little bit waste of time.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust if I wanted to have the communication and know that's a door opener.
Yeah.
Well, at least, you can try it. And you just pick a piece that you're serious about so you can be real.
Yeah.
You don't need to fake it. So if you love the sunshine, well, then just talk about the sunshine, right?
Yeah.
Or, make a little remark so the other person has the opportunity to get into the conversation because that's what they're used to.
Yeah. So it's kind of being willing to suspend my own thinking towards the customer's needs, whatever the customer wants, accommodating towards them. And it's a basic idea, but it's amazing how, from what you're sharing, we will going, because especially if I made in the morning, if I spent half the morning calling into folks within the U.S. Eastern Seaboard, East Coast, and then all of a sudden I'm making, or let's say the early morning calling into Europe, because that's going to be your afternoon. Early morning calling into Europe, and then switch gears and calling into the U.S. I need to make sure that I'm changing according to the way that customer is going to buy, because I can't come with that same form. And sometimes sales rep, I'm going to say, be truthful, we want to get the easiest way out. So if I can just use the same monotone way of speaking or the same conversation all day, then I would feel so much better. But if I need to work effectively, I should be tailoring it according to those that I'm calling.
Definitely. Do you want to be talked to or have a conversation with a person that's saying the same sentence over and over and over again, right? Obviously, you have kind of a sales pitch kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you need to get your points across to make it successful.
Yeah.
You need to cover certain things. Another thing is like, in the US, I would say, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
But nobody gives you like the true answer. They always say, well, yeah, I'm fine. Right. And end of conversation, right? Nobody goes like, oh, today is not just, I had a coffee, it didn't work out. So if you say that in Germany, it's kind of it's not really the opener. You just open with whatever it's on your heart. Yeah. Right. So if somebody says like, how are you? You probably will hear, well, oh, I'm not that well today. Which like for an American, if you tell them, if you ask me, how are you? And I'm going like, oh, I really had a bad day yesterday. You're thinking like, oh, what's wrong with her? Like, oh, let's end this conversation.
Yeah.
So like really, like, what do you expect? What do you want to get out of it?
Yeah.
And come from that angle where you think like, okay, I'm calling this person. They are in a different country. How can I serve? Because I know my product is going to be great.
Yeah.
And they might not have it over there. We want to expand. So what can I do to serve them with their needs?
Yeah.
And, and then approach that angle. And if it's in the morning calling into Europe and then in the afternoon calling into the US, great. Take your lunch break and switch gears.
And recalibrate. Come
exactly.
Back prepared.
Yes.
One of the other things I've experienced calling into, this was an inbound call. So we have an online course and it's called TSE Certified Sales Training Program. It was TSE Hustle League before, but I had a client from Eastern Europe that they found us online. They filled out the form and then we had the initial conversation. After we had the discovery meeting and then we went into, did the little pleasantries and then we went into the, building value into the next step and then found out what they really wanted and so forth. And they wanted a program. We got to the very end and we're doing the negotiations. It's pretty simple. But I learned from another friend who's also in Eastern Europe that people in Eastern Europe want to make sure they get a good deal, right?
Everybody wants that. I think that's for everybody.
Well, what he meant by that was like, even though the pricing was good, it's not a good deal unless they were able to negotiate it down a little bit. So even if it's a fair price and everyone paid that same thing, going into a conversation, no matter what, at the end, they're going to say, well, can we negotiate the pricing a little bit more?
Yeah. So what was your answer?
In that case, I said it was a yes. And what I did with them, because it was a multiple individual tier. So I gave them it was a better workout. I got benefit from it. They got benefited from it because instead of one individual coming into the program, they were going to bring 3 individuals into the program. So then we gave them a price break on that.
Yeah.
So
you know what I always say when people ask that?
What do you say to them?
I said, oh yeah, sure. I can make it more expensive.
I can make it more expensive.
And
sure.
Sure. I can, you can always add something to it. and it worked. And I get that, especially depending on what products you sell, at what price level, who your negotiation partners are.
Yeah.
Coming back to the A type.
Yeah.
So they want to have a win.
Yes.
So maybe you already have something in place that you could take as a, ace.
Yeah.
When you get to that place that doesn't cost you anything, that adds value, that gives them the feeling, well, I negotiated something. Yeah. I got something out of this. That always helps.
But do you see that with Europe, with some of the European cultures where negotiation is a part of the way they do business all the time, like bargaining or?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't really say that for the German culture. And there it's different. If you are like a person that's, if you're a company, it's probably different because they get also taught that you need to negotiate.
Yeah.
So they have usually like purchase departments and they negotiate really, really hard.
Yeah.
When you just go, we would never go into a store and start negotiating or like to a market and start negotiating, right? So that
can you bring that price of this rice for me?
Yeah. So, that's a price you just take out your wallet that you pay. That's really interesting. But I think for the business is always trying to get the best deal.
Yeah.
And I would probably guess that's kind of true for every culture. You just want to have this good feeling of
you got something.
Yeah. I got that deal.
Well, as we come down towards the end of the interview here, I want to find out We spoke about you got to make sure you're a little bit more patient. You got to make sure you're going to deal with a lot of different individuals at times. We spoke about the tonality and also like the small talks. And then we spoke about the negotiation, like certain places you're going to find that everyone wants to negotiate and want to make sure to get the best deal, but be aware of that and some different ways to tackle that. Is there anything else as a last piece of advice that you'd give to someone who's is from the US selling into Europe?
Well, I would just say like, be true to yourself, like be authentic. Just don't make it up. Like if you have a great product, wonderful.
Yeah.
And just, come from that place where you are interested in the connection, because in other cultures, like the small talk can feel superficial.
Yeah. So
you already get like, not the brownie points for giving the person the impression that, you're just there for the sale. I think that's maybe the biggest takeaway, to make sure that you have that relationship established, that the person doesn't feel like they are getting sold to, but they get an invitation to buy.
Love it. That is so awesome. Now, you have a podcast as well. We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell me about your podcast.
Well, my podcast is called Heart Sells, because I wanted to make the word play with hard with a D and then heart with a D.
Yeah.
And it's a show where I interview success stories like Bob Burg with the Go-Giver, who was a common friend, amazing book, or John Lee Dumas, like successful entrepreneurs who have maybe overcome their challenges in sales.
Yeah.
And who really truly come from that space, for that heart-centered space. They want to give value because, as Bob says, or it says in the Go-Giver, right, the money is the echo of value.
Yes.
So if you approach sales from that space, you already like kind of won half the game.
Yeah.
So I interview them to showcase that everybody can learn sales. Sales can be fun. You can turn a sales conversation into a fun conversation. And I want to teach people that sales is love.
Yes.
So if you keep hiding your gifts, your talents, you're not bringing that to the world because you don't dare to sell, everybody loses.
So true. Now, if folks out there want to get in touch with you and check out your book and check out your podcast and stuff like that, how did it go about connecting with you?
Well, they can just go to ChristineSchlonski.com, and Christine with CH, and Schlonski is SCHLONSKI.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that stuff back in our show notes. Christine, thank you so much for taking the time to come on our show today. We truly appreciate having you.
It was so much fun being here on your show, Donald. Thank you.
You're welcome. Man, I'm telling you, Christine came over here and showed us what we should be doing. If you want to connect with Christine, go ahead and find the links in the show notes. Also, let her know that you heard her on the Sales Evangelist podcast. I love a good podcast myself, and she has a great show. Find the link to it. Go ahead and subscribe. And while you're there, actually, check out our program, TSE Certified Sales Training Program. I think you'd benefit from it, as well as share it with your team members. Maybe they could benefit as well. If you haven't heard about Sales Success Summit, there's a link in the show notes as well. You can swipe up on the cover art. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can see all the information there. But when you check out that event, man, I'm telling you, you're going to be blown. Your mind's going to be blown up. It's going to be like, boom, how come I didn't know about this before? How come I wasn't here? Who hid this from me? The cool thing about this event is that they bring the top 1%ers of many different industries together and they share what's working. Imagine if you could sit at their feet and just gain their wisdom. That's exactly what's going to happen. And one of the benefits is that you don't have to sit at their feet. You can actually sit at a table and listen, or some nice chairs. Check out the event. Tell Scott and the team there you heard about them on the Sales Evangelist podcast. I know they'll be super happy. I share this stuff with you because I want to help you. I bring folks like Christine on to give you wisdom. As a sales leader this month, I want you guys to be able to be the best sales leaders you could possibly be. And I want you to put your team in the right direction. I want you to find more ideal customers, build stronger value, and close more deals. But most importantly is to go out each and every single day and do big things. Hey, listen, I hope you enjoyed the episode today as much as I did. And if so, I ask that you go ahead and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to fine podcasts. It goes a long way. This is my birthday month, man. And if I could get some more of you leaving your testimonial about how you love the show, that'll make me feel really happy. It would be an awesome birthday gift. And to top it off, I'm going to pick a few of them and read them on one of our upcoming episodes. How about that? I appreciate you. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Jershino Bale. Our guest correspondent is May Marr. Our amazing artworks are created by Dessen. Our show note were created by Rael. And our podcast production manager is Mrs. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits in each of our show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the sales evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.